When you've had enough Mariah Carey songs at Christmas time, thank goodness there are songs that put the rock and roll in the season. This is the story of Billy Squier and his wonderfully refreshing, oh-so-needed Yuletide rocker, Christmas is the Time to Say I Love You. If you like this episode, give it a like at the end and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Rewind to Christmas 1981, the beginning of the MTV era. The channel had launched in August and was already changing the way artists and fans connected with each other, with fans now able to watch videos made by their favorite artists from the comfort of their living rooms. The cultural influence of MTV in the 1980s can't be overstated, and the bands and artists that benefited from this exposure found themselves with a much larger audience, reaching fans that they would never be able to reach by touring alone. Billy Squier was one of those MTV darlings and had just released his sophomore album, Don't Say No, in April of 1981. His most successful commercial album ever. It had gone platinum by the time MTV launched in August, fueled by hits like The Stroke and My Kinda Lover. And the videos for these songs and other hits from that album, performance videos with Squier on stage, were played in heavy rotation on MTV. So it's ironic that just a few years later, it was a video that would be blamed for killing his career. But I'll get to that in a bit. In 1981, the launch of MTV and Squier's hit album came together in a matter of perfect timing, and Billy Squier became the prototype for an arena rock artist who could sell to the teens rocking out in their living rooms to these songs, which always had that all-important pop undertone. And that's a key ingredient in the music of Billy Squier. Growing up in Wellesley, Massachusetts, he started out playing piano and then moved on to guitar. And he credits seeing a 1968 performance of Cream in nearby Boston when he was around 18 years old to really inspire him to pursue performing. He started a band and then spent a brief time studying music at the Berklee College of Music, a short-lived stint that ended with Squier moving to New York City and starting the band Piper as the principal songwriter and frontman. Piper disbanded, but had gotten the attention of executives at Capitol Records, and in 1979, Squier was signed to the label as a solo artist. His first album, 1980's The Tale of the Tape, was released to little commercial success, and Squier took matters into his own hands at that point by contacting Brian May of Quinn to produce his second album. May passed on producing it himself, but he introduced him to Reinhold Mack, the German producer who worked with Quinn on 1980's The Game album, for which he won a Grammy. Mack was a veteran producer who had a hand in projects from the Electric Light Orchestra and Deep Purple, among others. Reinhold and Squier hit it off, and the result was Squier's breakthrough. So, newly minted as a bona fide rock star in what turned out to be a banner year, both for his own career and for the fledgling music video channel MTV, Squier was chosen for the first Christmas video special. He lived in New York, where the MTV studios were located, and he was a frequent guest. And he had recorded a B-side to My Kinda Lover just for the Christmas holiday. So it all made perfect sense. If you watch the sing-along video for Christmas is the Time to Say I Love You, you'll see all of the original 5 MTV VeeJays there. Nina Blackwood, Martha Quinn, Mark Goodman, the late J.J. Jackson, and Alan Hunter, along with MTV staff and local radio personalities from New York City, all singing along to Squier's song, with Squier up front leading the charge. There's a real feeling of joy in that video. A feeling that for that moment, the true believers of rock and roll and what was happening with this new channel were all gathered together in one place, sharing holiday cheer with one another and with the fans sitting at home. It began a holiday tradition on MTV, with Christmas specials that would later include Bryan Adams and George Thorogood in those early years, before the corporate overlords diminished the ragged fun and the unabashed enthusiasm of the spirit of early MTV, when it was still an enterprise, low in budget, but high in energy and pure delight. The song became an instant 80s Christmas classic for rock and rollers everywhere, and it goes like this. Christmas is the time to say I love you. Share the joys of laughter and good cheer. Christmas is the time to say I love you, and a feeling that will last all through the year. On the corner, carolers are singing, and there's a touch of magic in the air. From grown-up to minor, no one could be finer. Times are hard, but no one seems to care. Christmas Eve, and all the world is watching. Santa guides his reindeer through the dark. But from rooftop to chimney, from Harlem to Bimini, they will find a way into your heart. On a side note, Bimini in the Bahamas is known as the sport fishing capital of the world. It's about 50 miles off the coast of Florida and is a long way from New York City. The mention of Bimini in this song reminds us of that time that Billy Squier went a very long way to partake in a headline-grabbing sport of sorts. In 1985, while he was spending time in Asia, he chartered a helicopter from the Prince of Nepal to take him up to the peak of Mount Everest, the highest mountain above sea level in the world, and he wanted the pilot to land him at the summit of the mountain, over 29,000 feet in the air. The pilots declined to do that, though, because it was just too dangerous, even though Billy Squier offered them a reported $10,000 each to try it. But back to 1981 now, as the lyrics go on. Just outside the window, snow is falling, but here beside the fire, we share the glow of moonlight and brandy, sweet talk and candy, sentiments that everyone should know. Memories of the year that lays behind us, wishes for the year that's yet to come. And it stands to reason that good friends in season make you feel that life has just begun. Christmas is the time to say I love you. Share the joys of laughter and good cheer. Christmas is the time to say I love you, and a feeling that will last all through the year. So when spirits grow lighter and hopes are shining brighter, then you know that Christmas time is here. It really says everything that we should feel about this special time of year when lights are bright and friends and family get together with a strut to it that Billy Squier is so good at creating musically. It's that pop sensibility infused into his rock songs that have made his hits so enduring, and his early performance-based videos, including the performance of his Christmas hit with the MTV staff, was a huge part of the offering at MTV as the channel got off the ground. So it's quite ironic that Squier was the recipient of a backlash based on the reaction to a video he shot just a few years later, in 1984, for his song Rock Me Tonight. The song was another hit on the radio and on the Billboard chart, but the video was another story. It shows a bare-chested Squier rolling around on satin sheets and then putting on a sleeveless pink t-shirt and then sliding around on the floor and dancing in a way that is so over the top that it's downright uncomfortable. It just wasn't what fans were used to seeing from Squier, and they couldn't tolerate it. The video was quickly pulled from rotation on MTV, but the damage was done. His concert ticket sales dried up almost overnight, and Squier, who was once that MTV darling, fired his managers for deceiving him over the concept of the video. It remains a cautionary tale in the music business to not allow one's handlers to blindside one's career with a move that fans would take as out of step for the artist. And it's funny how just a few years later, bands like Poison would take over MTV, dolled up and glammed up beyond belief. But Billy Squier's mid-'80s fans just couldn't take it. In another weird turn for Billy Squier, he ended up being one of the most sampled artists in hip-hop. His 1980 classic, The Big Beat, is one of the most sampled songs of all time, thanks to the killer rhythm in the song, And it's been sampled by Eminem, Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, and many more. Billy Squier released 9 studio albums and contributed songs to the movie soundtracks for St. Elmo's Fire and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But he stepped away from the music business as a recording artist in the early 90s. More recently, he's performed as a member of Ringo Starr's all-star band, and he's toured on his own. But his catchy, powerful, poppy rock songs continue to be the ones we turn up when they come on the radio. And every year at Christmas time, we rockers can breathe a sigh of relief to have a rock song that says all we need to say to one another with his "Christmas is the time to say I love you." A holiday song with a little swagger to it. A break from the overly saccharine Christmas songs that come with the season, and one that's always really hard not to sing along to. I'm Janda, and this has been Behind the Song. Special thanks, as always, to Christian Lane for the music you hear on these podcast episodes. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts and on TikTok. And you can find me on the air weekdays from 9 to 2 at 97.1 FM The Drive and at WDRV.com in Chicago. On the way, much more classic rock and roll.